Women's Six Nations returns this week, and everybody's thinking, can anyone stop the English juggernaut? My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. The first game of the round and the first game of this year's Women's Six Nations is France versus Ireland. It's at the Stade Marie Marmont. It's at 2:15 GMT, and for anyone in Ireland, you can catch it live on RTE. So this is world number 3 versus world number 10. Ireland, another new coach, another Six Nations or Women's Six Nations, another new coach for them. And it's Scott Beamond has taken over. He has made some strides with them, but still, Ireland have a long way to go. Wooden Spooners last year. France second in the table last year, just that one defeat to England, although some of the other teams did run them close in some of the games. But still, you got to think like France at home and, against an Ireland team who are still trying to, find their feet in this tournament in recent years. A lot of adversity for Ireland and a lot of problems behind the scenes as well. Like the RFU have really dropped the ball on women's rugby, and it's going to take a long time, I think, for women's rugby to recover. I'd be surprised if they, are any much better. I expect them to be better than last year, but I don't expect major strides from them in terms of, being able to knock over somebody like France. I think that's a long way off for them. And because of that, going for a French win, and it's probably going to be fairly comfortable. If you look at last year's game, it was in Musgrave Park in Cork, and it was Ireland 3, France 53, and it could be easily, like with France at home, easily looking at a similar margin between the teams as well. This year just shows the amount of work that Ireland have to do try and close the gap, because none of their results last year, I think the closest they got to another team was 17 points behind Italy, and all the others, like absolutely trashed by England, and Wales and Scotland beat them comfortably as well. So Ireland, a lot of work to do, and as I said, against a French team who they got run close by Italy last year. They they hockeyed Scotland, I believe it was 50-5-0, beat Wales comfortably as well, and then came very close to England. They were, but it was an amazing game actually, because it was 33-0 to England at half time, and then up 38-33 in the end. So France really did come back in them. It was a very exciting game, but still, England had enough to clinch the Grand Slam in that game. But yeah, looking at this one, got to think it's got to be a French win. Ireland, I think that their main goal for this year is to try and avoid the wooden spoon. I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to do that, because other teams are advancing as well. Nobody's standing still in the women's game. It's the fastest growing part of rugby at the minute, and that means every season all of these teams are going to get better, and they're going to get more professional as well in terms of the players, but also the support and the coaches around them as well. And it's good to actually see that this year Women's Six Nations is sharing the same sponsor as the men's as well. So it's a bit more of alignment with the the two tournaments, and that's really good to see. I want to see more of that in the future. Not too long in the future, I feel like that, the likes of Ireland and Wales and Scotland should be looking at playing in the the same venues that the men's team do and filling them out. You're already seeing England getting close to that level now, being able to get big crowds to Twickenham for their games, and it feels like the other teams have to play a little bit of catch up for that. But once they do, then you've got a really sustainable professional game there. And but for Ireland, it feels like a long road at the minute for them to get there. There, as I said, a lot of mistakes made from the IRFU. And I feel like as well, it kind of speaks to the fact as well that the women's game still doesn't get the respect that it deserves, because if the mistakes that were made in the women's game were made in the men's game, it would be a huge issue in Irish sport, not just in rugby, but in Irish sport. And, heads would roll because of it. I know, coaches left, etc., and they restructured a little bit, but I'm talking about the entire, organization, not just on the women's side of things. So, that just shows that we still have a bit to go to kind of get parity for the women, but at least, this is a new dawn. Well, like, new coach has been there since July of last year, but this is the first Six Nations now for them under him. So let's see how they go. But I feel like in this first match, it's probably going to be, a bit more the same for them, really. France are going to be too strong. The second game then is Wales versus Scotland. So this is at Cardiff Arms Park. It's at 4:45 on Saturday. And this one, if you're watching in Ireland, is live on Virgin Media. And this is probably going to, for me, probably going to be the best game of the round, because these two teams, were fairly close in the table last year. They're fairly close in the rankings as well. Like, you got Wales are in 6th place and Scotland are in 8th, but there's only a couple of points between them in those world rankings. And last year as well, if we look at the table, you're talking about 3rd place Wales versus 4th place Scotland, and really the game between them last year decided that finishing order. That's how close it was. And looking at it from the point of view of how it was last year as well, like, half time there's only 2 points between them last year. Wales kind of, in the second half, towards the end, really pulled away a little bit and finish up 34-22, but still, two very close teams. I feel like in terms of structure of the also rans, as it were, because in the women's Six Nations traditionally it's always been England and France out in front by a mile, but you can see the likes of Wales are leading that charge to hunt, especially France, down. I think there's a long way to go to close the gap on England, who are just sensational. But Wales are kind of leading that, and they seem to have a decent structure there. They had a good team last year. There's a lot of younger players coming through as well from last year too. And Scotland are kind of the next team after them, and they'll want to show that they've made progress and go for a win against Wales. But the fact that Wales have home advantage on this one, I think I'm going to go again for Wales to repeat the trick from last year, and for it to be a fairly close game and probably the most exciting game of the weekend. I'd say if you were going to, if you could only watch one of the games in the weekend, this would be the one to watch. It's probably going to be the closest one, and it's going to be the one with the kind of most on the line as well in terms of the overall table at the end of the tournament. The final game then we have is on Sunday, 24th of March, and this is Italy versus England. It's at the Stadio Sergio Lanfranchi, and it's a 3:00 kickoff. This one again live on RTE. So you got Italy, who are definitely we've seen in the men's game that they're a coming nation, but also in the women's, they're a coming nation. They're already kind of established in that pack. Kind of the chasing pack, rather than they haven't been adrift the way that the men were for a long time. That they're already established at that. So I think in terms of relative progress compared to their competitors, the women have probably been like a step ahead of the men, and then the men obviously had their best Six Nations finish this year. Can the women repeat the same thing as well? Because they came very close last year in some of the games. Now this one wasn't won like it was England 68, Italy 5 last year, but England again, they're an outlier really. They're just so much better than most of the other teams in this, and so you have to kind of look at other results. So Italy, they ran France close. They lost 12-22 to France last year, and that's a really good performance from them, and they could have been even closer to France in that game as well. It felt like, a few handling errors aside, maybe they could have gotten a couple of more scores themselves. And then they beat Ireland 24-7, and they came close to Scotland. It was 10-7 at half time, 29-21 in the end. So it wasn't that, far off them actually getting a win there. Against Wales, it was kind of close in the first half, 7 points between them. And then Wales kind of, I think greater fitness really told for them in the end. They ran out 36-10 winners, but still, Italy are definitely, a team to be reckoned with in the women's game of the Six Nations, in terms of, if you look at the other four, the chasing pack, so Italy, Wales, Scotland and Ireland, they feel like they can beat any one of those other teams, and they have done in recent years as well. And then it's the same, I think, with Wales, about trying to make that leap of getting a result against either France or England, and trying to then do that on a regular basis as well. But this is not going to be the year, I think, that they get a result against England. England, again, they're just too strong. There's going to be a lot of competition in that England team for, players who want to be there involved all through the tournament. And I think they're going to want to make a statement as well in the opening game. Obviously, Italy are going to try and make it difficult for them at the start, but England there's so many weapons. They've got plenty of ball players. They've got plenty of speed out wide as well. They've got that power in the pack. They've also got lovely hands across their pack as well. In the front row, the back row, it doesn't really matter. There's so many ball players in the pack as well that it makes it so much more difficult for the opposition's teams, because it's you've got a player coming at you who looks like they're going to run over you, but they could easily sidestep you, or just give a lovely offload to somebody else and put them through as well. So there's so many things to worry about in defence against a team like England that it makes it really, really difficult. And I think that's what we're going to see in this game, is that Italy, they're going to tackle their hearts out. They're going to defend. But England are just going to have too much of them. England are probably going to build a score fairly early on. I'd be surprised if England, haven't got the bonus point wrapped up well before half time in this one. But for Italy, it's about trying to, win little areas of the contest, I feel. Maybe get a couple of scores themselves. Don't get nilled at home by England. Try to maybe win a 10-minute period, or even a 20-minute period in the game. That's the kind of progress you have to look at, because otherwise, when you look at England, you just think, well, where do we start? But you have to start somewhere, and we can see these teams are building, but it's going to take 4, 5, 6 years before really the chasing pack can have any chance of getting close to England. But all the time, England are getting better as well. Again, no team is standing still in this competition. The quality and the competitiveness of women's rugby is just going to get higher and higher as the years go on, and that's why, again, with I look at it obviously from the point of view of the IRFU, but I think all kind of at the main unions. This is when you need to really start taking women's rugby seriously and investing in it, because that's your vehicle really for huge growth in terms of your revenue over the next 10 or 15 years. That's where you're going to be able to fill your main stadium another, whatever it is, 5 or 6 times per year. And who wouldn't want that? Wales are in dire straits for revenue at the moment, and they're in the men's game, they're struggling to keep their professional sides going. But imagine the women's team filling maybe 2 or 3 games at the Principality, filling those year in, year out, and then also you got autumn tests as well for them, maybe, potentially filling it another 2 or 3 times as well, and then maybe one-off tests through the year as well. So you've got, huge potential for that, and then for TV revenue and etc. That it beggars belief to me that it hasn't been taken seriously enough. But in terms of my predictions for the weekend, let's just recap. So I think France are going to win fairly comfortably against Ireland. Ireland, really, we just want to see some fight and some heart and a little bit of improvement in terms of, just kind of the togetherness of the team. Wales and Scotland, we're going to see, I think, an amazing battle between them, and definitely the closest game around. But I think Wales are going to come out on top there. And then Italy and England, you want to see Italy, having some success in winning the game. Again, it doesn't have to be like winning the game or whatever, just having a little moments of success. And England, we just sit back, we admire, the level of skill really that they can produce. And I think it's going to be a fairly comfortable England win. So that is our preview for the first round of the Women's Six Nations this year. I will try to cover at least one of the games, over the weekend. Hoping to do, reviews of more than one game per week, but it depends on how my work schedule is. So I'm targeting at least being able to cover hopefully a Wales versus Scotland game this weekend. But then we will have a recap probably on Tuesday of the results from the weekend and how that leaves the teams going into round 2.